What gives life meaning? This question may be complicated, yet the answer can be narrowed down to just one thing: connection. The ability to connect with one another through a micro moment of being present. A smile, a nod, a hug, or that unforgettable moment, the birth of your child, the miracle of seeing him take his first breath. These are the moments that give life meaning and help us feel connection, compassion, and love for one another. The psychologist Barbara Fredrickson, who studied the biology of love, found that love is the micro moments of connection between two or more people. And if I can count the number of moments of connection I had with my son Quinn, developed over 16 years, 6 months, and 27 days, they would easily range in the millions, from his early love for pirates to his later passion for soccer. I thought these micro moments of love would continue to accumulate, but something changed my life abruptly. You see, after 16 years, 6 months, and 27 days, at 4:30 in the morning, I experienced my last moment with Quinn. I held him in my arms, looked into his eyes as he took his last breath. A few weeks later, the medical examiner told me the official cause of death was intussusception, a serious condition in which part of the intestine slides into an adjacent part of the intestine, which blocks food or fluid from passing through. Imagine closing a telescope, which causes an intestinal obstruction. It's a serious medical emergency. The smoking gun in the report was that it had been diagnosed correctly, yet ignored. At first, I thought his death was a freak accident, an isolated incident, but it wasn't. Quinn actually died due to something so common, it is now considered the third leading cause of death: medical error. According to an 8-year study by researchers at Johns Hopkins, just over 250,000 people die every year in the United States from this secret epidemic. That's about the entire population of Chula Vista. Imagine losing the entire city in 1 year to medical error. And it happened to me. The Institute of Medicine reports that most people will experience at least one diagnostic error in their lifetime, sometimes with devastating consequences. The purpose of sharing my story is to raise awareness and promote safer and more effective medical care for patients, as well as doctors. I consider the people who go into the medical field to be some of the brightest and hardest working individuals. Doctors are people too, and compassion is a two-way street. After my son passed, I struggled with the stages of grief. Depression, I had that. Denial, anger, bargaining, I had them all. But acceptance, that was tough. Instead of accepting and moving on, I added a stage to my grief: a strong desire for justice. I couldn't completely heal because the harm done was never acknowledged, but I had to resist the pull of hate that tugged on me. I was being tested, and I had to demonstrate courage in order to honor my son's life and all those moments of connection we had together. So I had to begin my own healing by showing empathy and compassion towards the doctors. That was hard. There were so many questions with no answers. No one could tell me why my son died or that they were sorry. There was no 1-800 number I can call for help. So I sat in front of my computer and I clicked on the Google search bar. But what do you type when you lose a child to medical error? I remember the first thing I searched for: Intussusception. One search led to another, and I went down the rabbit hole of medical error research. That's when I discovered a landmark medical report, "To Err is Human," which called for a national effort to make healthcare safer. And the report's main conclusion was that the majority of medical errors do not result from individual recklessness. Errors are caused by faulty systems. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I have no medical background. I'm a father who lost his son, and I was just looking for answers. From what I learned, the challenge of being a doctor is time. A doctor may have up to 2,000 patients with possible acute, chronic, and preventative care needs. And if that single doctor were to provide all their patients with the recommended care necessary, their day would easily exceed 21 hours. I also learned that the transition from paper charts to electronic medical records created an unexpected barrier between doctors and patients. The electronic system, although efficient in many ways, has doctors facing a computer screen instead of being present in a face-to-face conversation with their patients. There is so much required documentation. According to one Mayo Clinic study, 54% of physicians have reported symptoms of burnout. But the outcome is loss of connection, human connection, patient connection. My love for Quinn helped me see these doctors as human beings in a system that just asks way too much of them. Part of the solution is having the ability to slow down and listen to intuition. Intuition is that immediate understanding, that gut feeling that doesn't require conscious reasoning. It is something we are born with, or that nagging feeling when something just doesn't feel right, yet we all too often ignore it. Failure to listen to our instincts, however, can lead to losing a micro moment that you'll never get back. Had I listened to my instincts, I would have pushed more for clarity and understanding. Intuition is also part of that relationship you have with your doctor. When we're so wrapped up in the situation, it's difficult to slow down time, connect, and answer, do I trust what is being said? The challenge is to have the emotional capacity to slow down. As I replay those last critical moments with Quinn, I realize I did not have the luxury nor the context to slow down and tune in. In hindsight, there were certain moments that stood out that felt odd. For example, the doctor's gaze fixated on the computer screen instead of Quinn was a crucial moment I missed. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I would have slowed down time and offered a solution in the moment. Or like the time when I came to an appointment prepared with a list of questions. During that visit, I noticed something strange. It was the doctor's feet. When I looked down at the doctor's feet, they were pointed towards the door, as if she were preoccupied with leaving the room. As she started to walk out, I quickly asked my first question. She dismissed me and replied as she continued walking, "No, just take him to the lab and get his blood drawn." Looking back on that moment, I could have paused and insisted on a moment of connection from her. Even for just a split second, it doesn't take long to show a patient that they are emotionally invested. It's a chemical change to know, to see, to feel that someone's dealing with something. Spending a lot of time is good, but even the smallest amount of time can be impactful when connecting the right way. As I replay all these moments that I missed, it was extremely difficult. And one of the important things is when I realized all those missed moments of compassion in Quinn's care and all the connection that was missed in his health care, I still did not have a solution until yet another click of the mouse led me to Dr. Peter Pronovost, one of the nation's premier patient safety experts and advisor to the World Health Organization. I emailed him to share my story, not expecting a response, but he did. Not only did he respond with compassion, he introduced me to the idea of micro moments of connection and the importance of valuing experiential wisdom, the untapped knowledge that comes from time spent with a patient. He said that this is an equally important domain of wisdom. He told me that parents and spouses will recognize sickness far earlier and more accurately than book wisdom. Yet medicine too often fails to honor the experiential wisdom of patients and their families. In the end, I realized that if we don't have micro moments of connection and compassion, it leads to a Quinn story, the death of a child, and over 250,000 people lost every year. It's important to slow down. I know it's not that easy, especially when faced with a difficult situation. But slow down just enough, you may be able to notice the direction of the doctor's feet. Look for those micro moments. Ask yourself, is that doctor present? Is the schedule too busy to give you the connection you need to get a proper diagnosis? Do we have a partnership that taps into each other's knowledge and wisdom? I know I'm asking the impossible when I say slow down. But what if we take a micro moment of connection and compassion? It's so worth it. Today, I vacillate back and forth between depression and acceptance. It's simply part of my journey. One way I get through the grief is by sharing my son's story through the gift of the Quinn Murphy Foundation, a small family-funded scholarship for students in our community. Many of the scholarships go to students entering the medical profession in hopes that Quin's story will inspire them to make micro moments of connection with their patients. I was fortunate enough to be there when my son took his first breath and his last. All these moments of connection and caring add up into the millions and lead to the change we seek. Today, I'm simply telling a story of hope, resilience, and love. Wherever you are in your journey, which is sometimes long and hard, take a micro moment. Thank you.